All right, Shalom. Before I begin this lesson, I want to start off by giving all praises, honor, and glory unto the Heavenly Father and His Son, whose true names is Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahushai, Bahashem, Rakak, Kodash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone, and peace and blessings to the hopeful elect. I'm the brother lawyer, and I teach the Great Millstone National Camp. Come back with a quick lesson, and this lesson will be entitled, We Are Subject to the Higher Powers. All right, we are subject to the higher powers. And double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone, if I didn't say that, Salaki. We are subject unto the higher powers. So before I play this video, fair use, Copyright Act. All right, chapter 17, some shit like that. I'm using this video for educational purposes only. I ain't making no money from this. And this is from Indisputable. And as you see the title, it says Black Pastor Blames Black Youth for Being Killed by Police. Now, many of you Israelites, so-called Blacks, Latinos, Native Americans, and Hispanics, it is your fault 95% of the times when you are killed by the police, because you lack the wisdom, knowledge, understanding of the Heavenly Father and His Son, whose name is Yahweh, which means He to be, He exists. Bahashem is in the name of Yahushua. You fail to understand that we are the Israelites. We are here serving in captivity. And though these police might be in the wrong, you need to let them have the shit. You can still record. You can get, evidence that they, what they call it, violated your rights, so to speak. You can still get evidence and sue them without getting killed. But we know that it's judgment. That's the Lord judging you for what you have done, for the sins that you committed. And you Israelite foreigners out there that's getting killed by the cops, guess what? The same thing is happening to you. Now, who's the Israelite foreigners? The Israelites out there look like so-called white people, Edomites. You look like an Ammonite, which is a Japanese. You look like a Moabite, which is Chinese, so on and so forth. So you out there, y'all getting judged too. But this topic is dealing with the Southern Kingdom. All right, the so-called black youth, Judah, Benjamin, Levi, the American Negroes, the Haitians, and Jamaicans. The American Negroes are the so-called tribe of Judah. The Jamaicans are the Benjaminites, the tribe of Benjamin, and Haitians are the Levites, my tribe. So we're going to go into the scriptures and we're going to play this video.
A black pastor blames black people for being killed by the police. Here it is.
Stop blaming white cops for the killing of black kids. Instead, teach your black children to be obedient towards authority.
And he's right. Yeah, I'm going to stop this video and what they call it, interject. Because that's true. That's Romans 13. Which I'm going to get. So we're going to keep playing this video.
And I don't care if most y'all are black. You need to teach your children to obey authority. We need to teach our sons and daughters to obey authority. We need to teach our children to not fight against authority, not fight against cops, not rebel. Be model citizens.
And also too, authority. Let me get something dealing with that real quick. All right, so this is this is what I didn't have pulled. So we speaking about authority. So before, we talking about dealing with the police, the government, but the real authority is in the household. All right, so damn. Proverbs 22:6. Train up a child in the way he should go, and when he is old, he will not depart from it. So, you teaching your kid. That's an in-house skill or lesson, that you're supposed to, teach your kid. And the Israelite household, they lack that. the so-called blacks, Latino, Native Americans, Hispanics, y'all lack that. Israelite foreigner households, we lack that because, our people don't have the knowledge of the Lord. Whether you have both parents, you have kids that got both parents and they still end up effed up because they lack the understanding about who they are, who God really is, who's their power. They lack all these different things. And it says that Hosea, my people are destroyed for the lack of knowledge. So yeah, the topic is, oh well, a dad's not in the household. And for the majority of Israelite households, that's true. But even with the dad in the household, the kid would still end up being messed up. Why? Because ultimately, their foundation is not upon their true power, who is Yahweh Bashem Yahushua. They lack the actual Holy Spirit of understanding, wisdom on how to conduct themselves, how to, teach their children. They lack those fundamentals. So let's go back. Damn it. Give me 1 second. All right. Hold on. Salai, give me 1 second. All right. So let's go right back.
Not fight against authority, not fight against cops, not rebel. Be model citizens. Stop being rebellious towards authority. Be submitted to laws and ordinances. Watch. The Lord said, give back to Caesar what belongs to him. That is, be submitted to governmental authority. You know why you're looking at me like that? Because you don't read. And an Italian cop drove right by me, and I locked eyes with the cop, and we stared at each other. He drove by. And in that moment, I hear the voice of my mom and my father. Son, obey authority. In that moment, with that Glock pressed to my head, I got to make a decision. Either my ego is going to be strong, God, or my submission to authority is going to be stronger than my ego.
Yeah, and so, I didn't watch, what they're going to say, but they're probably going to try to condemn the pastor about what he's saying, which he's true, because your pride is what destroys you. And these Israelites, they're full of pride, and pride brings forth destruction. So let me get some on pride. I wasn't even going to get this, but let me get this real quick. It's a specific one. Yep, that's what I want. Proverbs 16:18. Pride goeth forth destruction, and a haughty spirit before a fall. And so you end up falling. You end up falling dead, dropping dead, being killed, because of your pride when it comes to authority. Now, let's get this Romans 13. We're going to get the King James Version, and we're going to get the NLT or NIV. All right. All right. So Romans 13:1. Let every soul be subject unto the higher powers, for there is no power but of the Most High. The powers that are ordained of the Most High. So these governments that's over us, they're ordained by Yahweh Bashem Yahushua. Because what? Our punishment, that's part of our captivity, our punishment. We're not in power. We're not the ones we're not the authorities as of right now. We're about to be. But the Lord ordained these people over us. So you're supposed to you're supposed to obey the law of the land. Now, when that MOTB, their marketship is produced, then that's when you disregard their ass. That's when you don't give in to them. No, I ain't going to take that. Because really that's ordained by Yahweh Bashem Yahushua. It's ordained for the 2/3 of the nation of Israel to take it. And it's ordained for the one, the elect, that the 1/3 not to take it. So anyway, Romans 13 NIV. Let everybody be subject to the governing authorities, for there is no authority except that which the Most High has established. The authorities that exist have been established by God. And it says, consequently, whoever rebels against the authority is rebelling against what God has instituted. And those who do so will bring judgment on themselves. So you bring a judgment unto you. Now you're getting shot up. You be in a damn state, Illinois or New York. You ain't supposed to have no gun on you or however the laws is up there. I'm from the South, and so it's a little bit different where I'm from. Concealed carry or open carry is a little different. But, you go to these weird ass states to where you can't do stuff like that, and you seen with a pistol on you, just go ahead, put your hands up, let them take the gun. If it's registered to you or whatever, they'll find out. They violated your rights. It's other ways of winning in this system. First, it starts with the Lord. You got to have this wisdom, knowledge, understanding. You're not you're not always right and they're not always right. Let the Lord play that out. But a lot of y'all think y'all right. And you end up being wrong. And you end up getting put down because you fail to realize who your enemy is. So anyway, let me get off of that. Let me go to this Sirach 9 and 13. It says, keep thee far from the man that have power to kill thee. So shalt thou not doubt the fear of death. And if thou come unto him, make no fault, lest he take away thy life presently. Remember that thou goest in the midst of snares, and that thou walkest upon the battlements of the city. So yeah, a snare is a trap. So we know that these Edomites had the power to kill. And so you gotta suspect what's coming. Hey, I know I'm a felon. I got these type of charges on me. They're gonna try to search me. They're gonna run the tags and find this, pull me over, try to pull me out the car, see if I got something. And so you need to apply wisdom. Damn, I just ran this red light. It was a cop back there. He gonna pull me over. I ain't gonna try to run. For what? Now, if I run, it's a felony. They're gonna yank me out the car. Once they do stop the car, they're gonna, lay out spike strips. Got the helicopter on me. I ain't got no gas in the car. You're like, come on. Even if I do got gas, I'm still gonna run. And no, you dumb as hell. And I got guns and dope on me. Like, no, come on, bro. So we walk in the midst of snares, but for us as in this truth, we're not gonna have those issues anyway. Because, when a man's ways please the Lord, let me get that real quick. All right, so this is Proverbs 16 once again. When a man's ways please the Lord, he maketh even his friends to be at peace with him. So when your ways please Yahweh Shem Shah, the Lord makes it to where basically your enemies, they have some type of peace with you. You get pulled over, hey, you had a light out, tail light out, or your registration was expired, just show up to court, have your registration updated, send a photo in, to the county clerk office, of your registration, stuff like that. Or you might not even get a ticket. It might just be a warning or something, especially if you have a good record or your record's cleaned up, you ain't been in trouble, haven't been, in trouble for a while, so on and so forth. The Lord make a way for you. But for 2/3, that ain't so. So let me get off of that. And so, yeah, you want to stay away from the motherfuckers that got power to kill you. You don't want to do anything to have them even come after you. And then, if you do get pulled over and all that, don't be shaky and shit. Be confident in your how about Shem Shah. Like, okay, look, I'm acknowledge that I did this. This was wrong, and I want to get this motherfucker about my face. Hey, how you doing? Blah blah blah. Where you going? Going home. Where you come from? Whatever. Take the ticket. All right, court is here. Sign here. Blah blah blah. Get them on up at your fucking face. Get them on up out of there. So anyway, let me get off of that. Everybody want to text me. I'm doing the lesson. Let's go to Isaiah, because we know that the government is here for our punishment, like how we always talk about. And they're known as the Assyrians also. Now you look up the history dealing with the Assyrians, they were not rule. What's the word? They were cruel with their punishments toward their enemies. And so these Edomites, they're like unto the Assyrians as well. So Isaiah 10:5, O Assyrian, the rod of my anger, and the staff in their hand is my indignation. Today, the staff is the gun, the canine. You know, all these different weapons that they use and what they do with it. They dish out judgment for Yahweh Shah, you know, for transgressions. Salaki. So, all right, let's keep going. Isaiah 51. And what verse did I want? Damn, what verse did I want? I think it was 20. Yeah, because I'm gonna get this because this is how, our sons act. You know, the hood nigga, you know what, the YNs today, you know, they're like bulls on the head of every street. They're full of the rage of the Lord, like how it's gonna say. And that's why they get put down like that too. You know, you ever been to, I forgot what they call them, but, you know, when they ride the bull, they got the red, you know, they go after the the guy with the red, I forgot what they call it, like the matador or some shit like that. You know, that's how our sons act because, you know, the curses. So Isaiah 51:20, thy sons have fainted. They lie at the head of all the streets as a wild bull in the net. They are full of the fear of the Lord, the rebuke of thy power, you know, and they're full of the anger of the Lord or the fury of the Lord. And so that's why they wild like that. You know, hey, we under the curses. Wherever the Israelites are, they all act like this. All, you know, out at they outside on the street, all different times of the day, at night, you know, hustling, doing some gang shit. You know, and many of us come from a similar lifestyle. If you weren't in the hood, you were hood. You know, you had some type of gangsterness about you, or you might have been a little, you know, you might be, you know, in the suburbs or whatever. But ultimately, you were still somewhat around that type of lifestyle, the music. You know, all that plays a role into it. And so we were like bulls, even us in this truth. We was like that. Now, ultimately, too, something else happened. And I'm going to get that. And I'm going to end the lesson with that. So I'm going to get this. Matthew 5:25. It says, agree with thy adversary quickly while thou art in the way with him, lest at any time the adversary deliver thee to the judge, and the judge deliver thee to the officer, and thou be cast into prison. So just agree with your adversary quickly. And like I said, that's what dealing with getting pulled over, getting stopped. You know, agree with the nigga. You know, if he's wrong, go to court, go to trial. You know, post it or whatever. That's, you know, they got the cameras and all this and that. Everything is against Esau today because we're at the end of his system. So, you know, these phones, the camera, the internet, everything is working against him. Ultimately, this truth, because this truth, you know, is basically the reason why the internet was created. So you got all these different avenues. Yeah, use it against them. Agree with them. Be cordial. You know, be man. You know, have some type of, what's it called? I said be cordial, but there's another word I'm looking for. But even with the over talking, don't be doing all that. It's very effeminate. Don't be effeminate when you're dealing with these cops. You know, don't have that weak, effeminate spirit. You know, display your manhood. You know, be cordial. You know, dish it out. You know, it says be at peace with all men, if possible. You know, live peaceably with all men. If you're doing wrong, you know, go on and take it. Go and take that charge or whatever. You know, because ultimately the Lord delivered you up to that. But like I said, man, the Lord, you know, he's going to be found innocent in that day. Oh, and ultimately he's going to be found innocent when Yahweh Shah returns. whatever wrongdoing that you went through, the Lord's going to get payback. He's going to get recompense for you. All right. Now, our people are also getting killed because of this. Yeah, man. Our people said that 2,000 years ago. Well, yeah. Well, thousands of years ago, the curse was put upon us. It ain't lifted up yet. The curses ain't off of us. And so our people are paying for what they said dealing with the Lord. Let's see. I forgot what verse this is. Yeah. Matthew was 27, Slaki. Matthew 27. And I'm going to start up a little bit. I'm going to start at 16. It says, and they had then a notable prisoner called Barabbas. Therefore, when they were gathered together, Pilate said unto them, whom would ye that I release unto you, Barabbas or Yahushua, which is called Mashiach? It says, for he knew that for envy they had delivered him up. They had delivered up Yahushua because they were jealous of him. It says, when he was set down on the judgment seat, his wife sent unto him, saying, have thou nothing to do with that just man? For I have suffered many things this day in a dream because of him. But the chief priests and elders persuaded the multitude that they should ask Barabbas and destroy Yahushua. The governor answered and said unto them, whether of the twain will ye that I release unto you? They said, Barabbas. Pilate said unto them, what shall I do then with Yahushua, which is called Mashiach? They all said unto him, let him be crucified. And the governor said, why? What evil hath he done? But they cried out the more, saying, let him be crucified. When Pilate saw that he could prevail nothing, but rather a tumult was made, he took water and washed his hands before the multitude, saying, I am innocent of the blood of this just person. See ye to it. Then all the people, and said, his blood be upon us and our children. So that's why y'all getting shot down in the streets like that, because y'all forefathers was the one that said, let his blood be upon us and our children. So all these different generations, especially even today, because this generation is back, you're paying for the blood of Yahushua. His blood is upon y'all. Y'all were the ones that delivered him up. Let me see. What does it say? Till this generation be fulfilled. Matthew 24 and 34. Verily I say unto you, this generation shall not pass till all these things be fulfilled. So back then, he was talking about that generation, and they're here today. Why? Because all the prophecies that was being spoken about in Matthew 24, all those is coming to pass. At that time, he was saying, all these different signs are going to come. Starting up, Matthew 24, right? And you shall hear of wars and rumors of wars. All this is happening today. So this is that same generation to where all the ones that said, let his blood be upon our children. Hey, it's happening. The rumors of wars, uprisings of the people. The beginning of sorrows, evil, pestilence, Jacob's trouble. So with that, I hope this is an edifying lesson. I want to give all praises, honor, and glory unto Yahweh by Shem Yahushua. Shalom.